Hello and welcome to an EngView video. Today we're going to talk about drawing a box from scratch, and we're going to do a little bit different box today. We're going to do an ACM box. So aluminum composite material is pretty popular, and with EngView's parametric tools we can make building a box like this pretty easy. And then once you've got the design created, changing the sizes and stuff is super fast. So I'm kind of looking at it real quick in our shared space, one I've already done, but let's just go ahead and jump into EngView and start. So normally in EngView, you see a lot of my videos, I'll come in here and I'll go into our library and, we got thousands of designs, resizable designs, but we're going to go ahead and just start with a blank canvas. So I'm going to click New Project. And in here, you're going to see we got lots of different materials. And what I did, and I can send you these if you're interested, is I went to the rigid board materials and I added some different ACM materials and created the look and everything for them. So you can see we've got a 3mm thick one, we've got a 4mm ACM, and we've got a 6mm. Those are the common thicknesses you're going to look at. So let's just go ahead and start with our 4mm, and we'll say Finish. And now we've got a blank canvas. So we do have a full set of CAD tools. I mean, we can come in here and draw any kind of circle, any kind of ellipse, radiuses, lines, do whatever you want. And then we've got all the normal extend, trim, extend across, all that fun stuff. But in our case, we're going to just go ahead and we want to have something that's resizable, and we're going to design with components. So when you first come into your Synergy components here, you're going to see that we've got all our normal individual components and compound components, and you've got tons of geometric shapes. But what I did is I organized some of them into a library of some common ones that I would use for ACM. So let's start with this single panel. We'll drop it out here, and we're going to get this A and this B kind of dimensions, and we're not going to really worry about it at the moment. And actually, before we design the box like we just designed a minute ago, let's just have some fun with a cool kind of just simple box. So we're going to say, hey, here's our pH value. These are just normal rectangles. And let's go ahead and drop this kind of all the way around the outside. Okay, so now if you'll see, I've just created a simple shape. And if I go to my parameters, I can change my A length, my B length, my pH, and we can give these into different names. So I can click on here and call this like length. I can click on this and call it width. And maybe I want this one to be height or something like that. Okay. And we can change it pretty easily here. So we could say, hey, I want this to be like 18 by 10 by, let's say 6. All right. So now you'll see we've got a nice drawing, 2D, everything's adjusting like you'd expect them to. And if I fold this up, if I just create a 3D out of it and I click on my 3D tab and I click here and I let everything fold together, it's going to treat it like a crease. And so everything's going to be creasing, and notice these corners are overlapping and stuff. And that's not exactly what we would want on this design. We really want a cool construction where we're V-cutting that and everything. So let's come back to this tab here. We're going to click on our styles. We're going to remove all of our unused styles, and so now we've got our cutting and we've got our creasing. But in this case, what we'd like to do is I'm going to hold Control-Shift, I'm going to click on my different creasing lines here, and I can go in here and I got a huge library, I can add any styles, but if I click on my creasing here and I go to V-Cut, notice these are now V-Cut and I have a new V-Cut option. So that solves the bottom part of my box, but I still need to bevel these edges. So let's take these edges and let's grab them all like so. And we will now come in and click on our cutting and let's go to bevel cut. And you'll notice we got 30 degrees and 60 degrees and all that kind of stuff. But if we now come back to our 3D tab here at the bottom and we refresh, you're going to notice that not only did we adjust for that, now when we fold everything up, so we come down to this step right here, you're going to see everything folds nicely. If I take kind of a solid wire edge on this, you can see everything looks really crisp and clean. And even what's even cooler now is we come in here and we double click on our material and we change this to like 6mm thick and say, okay, everything's going to adjust, and notice our material thickness is thicker. And then same thing, if we come back here and we say, all right, nope, we really want 3mm. We come back and look at it. Notice we now have a thinner material. So everything's talking to each other. Everything's working together, kind of like what we'd expect it to happen. And plus now we could come back to our parameters. And once again, we can make any length change we want or height change. So let's stay on this common idea. We want to go back to remember, hey, we were working on doing some design like this here. So let's now kind of work our way towards that design. So I'm just going to leave this one here for the moment, and I'm going to do another new one-up drawing. And I'm going to call this, we'll say this base. Okay. So on our base here, we just kind of play with some of those different things. We're going to go back to our little ACM library, and let's drag our one panel out and say, okay. And let's come in and let's use a rectangle on the ends here. So we're just going to say okay on this just for speed. We're going to lock that in there, which is cool. Now what we want on this middle one is we want some corrections, since this panel is going to fold to the other panel. So we're going to grab this one with corrections here, and we're going to drop it into place, and we're going to drop it into place. And now we've got some corrections. Now I don't want to have to have two different adjustments on either side. So I'm going to uncheck this one, and I'm going to make it equal to that first one. So PC1. And say, okay, so now when I adjust one side, it's going to adjust the other. It's going to remember that as I kind of add these back in. So notice it has that unchecked. We're going to say, okay. So now, if you look at our design, we've got the A, we got the B, we got the PH, and we got the PC1. Same thing, I can come in here and call this length. I can click on here and call this width. Oops, I didn't call that length. We'll call that length. And we'll call this one height. Okay. Now, what we want to do now is start actually making some of our other parts. So let's extend this box up a little bit. Let's make it like, I don't know, 15 by 10 by, and maybe we'll do 6 inches high. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my Synergy components, and this time I have a couple other components, but I want one that has this layer. Notice this layer term. This one doesn't have the layer. This one has the layer. The layer is going to allow me to offset for my material thickness, which I want. Will save me some time. So I'm going to drag this in here, and I'm going to snap it to the end of here, and I'm going to snap it to the end of here, and I get a whole bunch of new parameters, and I'm just going to keep working my way around. So we'll do it over here. I want to go from the bottom to the top. Say okay. Now I want to stay with the bottom of the top, so I got these mirrors. So I'm going to come over here and mirror it. And now I can stay from the bottom to the top, say okay, and we'll do it one more time up here. Grab the bottom and to the top and say okay. So notice, because we had that layer, we got a nice little offset there. And that offset is our material thickness, because that's how that component was designed. But this offset right here is not our material thickness. So let's make that a little bit bigger for the moment so we can see what kind of issue we're going to run into. So let's make that like, you know, I don't know, we'll make it 0.5 for the moment. All right, we'll zoom out a little bit, and now you can see that all that's there. So let's go ahead and let's now take all these here. So we'll grab these, and we'll grab these, and we'll grab these, and we'll grab these. Oops, I guess I can't do that. I'm gonna just keep hold. Oops, one more time here. Grab that. Oops, cancel. All right. Okay, so now I've got all those, and I'm going to put my V-cut on here. And so notice those are all V-cut. Let's go to our 3D, and we'll create a nice 3D out of it. And there you can see all the folding. And let's go here, and it's just going to fold everything to 90 degrees for me. So notice I've got this big gap over here. So we want to go ahead and we want to solve that gap. So if we come back to our base, remember here I was adjusting this PC1. We have a cool variable. It's this lowercase d, and you notice when I start typing it says drawing name. Well, in that, instead of putting a drawing name, I'm just going to leave it blank and hit enter, and it's going to use that current material thickness for there. But if I had different material thicknesses on different drawings, I could reference the drawing of the material thickness I wanted to use and take that into account. So let's go back and look at our 3D, and we'll refresh, and you'll notice now that we're nice and close right there on the edge like we want to. We can take a look at it in a solid wire, or we can look at it in a transparent where we can see through it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of doing what we want it to do right now. Now, the other thing you'll notice is when we came here, everything folded up in one step, okay? If we want that to be in 2 steps, we can insert a step below. And then what we could do is grab like these items right here, and we could drag them all to this other step. Oops, I guess I have to do them one at a time. Drag that one there, and drag that one here. And one more, I think that one's already there. That one there. Nope, that one there. All right, there we go. So we'll drag those down to this step. Okay, so now if you watch our playthrough process, if we play through, it's going to fold the in part in and it's going to fold those other parts out for us. So we're kind of cruising along. Let's go ahead and put our rivet holes on. So the first thing I'm going to do is we did the 3 here before, and you'll notice like if I double click on this, if I have my Synergy component creator, this is a part I can edit, create what I want. So I created a 3-hole version first, then I deleted the center hole and I created a 2-hole version second. So let's use the 2-hole version this time. And you'll notice it's got a bottom hole offset and a top hole offset. On the 3-hole, the center one centers between here. And so let's drag it out. And let's go ahead and start dropping it into place. And I kind of want it to be centered here. So I got to grab a control point. And I'm going to grab a control point because I want that same kind of length for my tabs when it lines up. So we'll do that one there. Let's zoom in over here. Grab that here and same thing. We'll move out here to the end. We'll say okay. Now what we have to do is we have to mirror. So we'll mirror this up here. Grab that. And okay. So now that's got its offset, everything's ready to go. We're going to do that again, but this time we're going to use a different horizontal offset. And so when we use a different horizontal offset, we're going to want to rename it. But when we rename it, then it'll match for all of our other components. So instead of using HHO here, I'm going to say HHO2, say okay. And then we'll go around and we'll do the same thing. So now as I drop these into place, it's going to remember that HHO2. Notice it, HHO2. Same thing, we'll come here and we'll mirror. Grab this guy right here. Drop it into place. Okay. All right. So now you're going to say, why'd you use 2 different ones? Well, I'll show you here in just a second. So let's take first this HHO2 and move it up by our HHO1. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to hold control and I'm just going to move it up a few. And we'll zoom in a little bit. And I'd like to have these holes centered on this flap. So I'm going to take HHO1 and instead of using a value there, I'm just going to say, hey, let's use TPH2 and let's just divide it by 2. That'll put it right in the center. So you'll notice all those adjusted, which is really cool. And let's make HHO2 right now just equal to HHO and say okay. And let's go look at our 3D and see what we got. So we're going to refresh. And if you look there, the hole is just slightly off. I think it's off by material thickness because that's the fold that's taken into account. So let's come to this HHO2 and let's minus our material thickness. And let's take a second look at it or refresh and look at there. Our holes are lined up just nice and perfect. And so what's super cool now is let's say we go and change here and now we want to have our, our length be, let's say 18 and we want this to be, let's call it 11 and we want our height to maybe be 8 and all that adjusts. And we could even adjust this bottom hole offset. Maybe we want this to be 2 and maybe we want this to be 1.5. Notice every hole adjusted, we can come back and refresh and everything lines up. So as you save this drawing and you reopen it, you can make those adjustments, everything happens quickly and you're ready to rock. Now you'll notice the original drawing had some shelves in it. And let's just go ahead and let's stay on this same theme that we have here. I'm going to do a new one-up drawing. And I'm going to call this horizontal shelf. And say okay. I'm going to go grab me a single panel here. I'm going to drop it out. And we have the panel. So we have our, let's call this our shelf width. And let's call this our shelf depth. Okay. And so now if we come back and we go to our original base, we might want to steal these parameters here and share them with the other drawings. So I'm going to make them global. Okay. And we'll say yes, because that's actually going to affect my other drawing here too, but that's all right, because we're not really using that one anymore. And now we can use these values, but we want to take into account because these were the outside dimensions on that. So we'll take our shelf width and, we could add a gap, we could add whatever we want. Maybe it might be kind of fun. So let's do a new parameter and let's call this gap. And let's put in like 0.5 in there. And let's say that we want our shelf width, we'll move gap above here. Let's say we want our shelf width to be our width minus our material thickness minus our gap. Oops, gap. And if I could do that right, gap. There we go. And then we'll take our shelf depth and let's make this height minus our material thickness. And I don't think we need a gap on this one, but we could if we needed to. But that's just basically the depth of our shelf. So now let's go ahead and let's take that shelf. We're going to use our 3D tool. We'll grab our drawing here. This is our drawing. So here's our base. Oh, we got to make a 3D out of it first. So let's go to our horizontal shelf. We're going to go to 3D. We'll create a quick 3D. And now we have a nice 3D of our shelf. We're going to come back to our base 3D, grab this tool here, and now you can see horizontal shelf. Here you are. And let's take that horizontal shelf and let's drop it into the bottom here and we'll stick it in place. Close this out. Now we can click on our shelf. We've got our part here and let's rotate it around. So we'll just rotate it to 90 degrees and we'd probably like it to be at the front here. So let's click on it and let's move. It's not that direction, it's that direction. So you can see now we're at the front here. If we click on, let's say a view where we can see it a little bit better, you can see it's lined up to the front. We even have our gap in there that we added because maybe in this case you might want some padding on either side or something like that. And then let's grab that shelf and let's just move up the bottom some distance. Oops, that's not that direction, it's this direction. So maybe we want it up like 3 inches off the bottom. Okay. Now we can come in and we can array those shelves, but if we want to do it from the drawing, like somebody says, hey, I want this many shelves, we could come back here, we could enter a new parameter and we could say like num or NUMB horizontal shelf. Okay, so then we'll say, let's say we want 3 of them. And we'll make it global and say, okay, same thing. It's up here at the top now automatically for us. Let's come back to this drawing. Let's double click on our shelf. Let's go to array. Let's go with the number of parts. And you notice I can add them here. I can put some spacing. It's another place we can put variable, but let's put in our number of horizontal shelves and say, okay. And now you could notice there's our 3 shelves. And so now with the power of parametrics, we could come in here and we could say, hey, I really want to have 4 shelves and I want this to be 20 inches, and I want this to be 10 inches, and I want the depth to be 7 inches. And we save this, and now when we refresh it, you can see everything adjusts like we want it to adjust. We could do the same by adding some vertical shelves in. And then if we want to go to production, we click on our nesting here. Let's say we want to put these on a 5x10 sheet. We could create whatever kind of normal sheet you wanted. Let's put some spacing between them. And let's just go see, notice by the way, it counted up our number of shelves. And so let's say we wanted to build 2 of these and we run the nester. Now you can say, okay, great. We can get some on here. Let's go ahead and say, hey, I want to make 4 of these and we'll run it through and you get the idea. Next, finish. So there is our part run ready to go. So you can see with some cool, just quick clicks, you can make a nice design. Once that design is done, now somebody just has to, all they have to do is just come in and change the sizes. And oh, the last thing we should touch on is that we didn't touch on. Let's now come back here and let's change the material thickness on this one. So if I double click on here and I go from 3mm to 6mm and say, okay, we come back and look at our design. Notice everything has adjusted, all the spacing's right, all the joints in the corners are right, all that. So if you want to move your material thickness, you're out of 2 or out of 3, you want to go to 4, you want to go to 6, all that can be adjusted. You don't have to redraw everything, which saves you just a ton of time. So hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.